Alright, so today I'm going to show you how to stain wood with fabric dye. And this is an idea I got from a commenter in another video, and I thought I'd try it out, and it works awesome. So let me show you. Alright, so for the sample in the video here, I'm just using a piece of pine, and I went ahead and I sanded it with 120 to kind of get rid of all the rough edges, and then I finished it by smoothing it with 220 grit sandpaper so that it's really nice and slick. And hopefully that will help the stain go on a little more evenly as well. Now if you're using a rougher piece of wood, or like pallet wood or barnwood where it has saw marks or just different, dips and dives and gouges and texture and all that kind of stuff, those areas are going to catch the stain or the dye more, and they're going to get darker, which could be a cool effect. But on a nice smooth piece like this, it should be pretty even. Now because this is pine, it's pretty soft, and the soft parts really soak up the dye quite a bit. If it had harder spots like knots, or like on plywood how it has the crazy texture, the darker spots are usually harder than the light spots, so that means the lighter spots will soak up more stain. They're going to get darker, so just be aware of that whenever you're staining your piece of wood. So as far as applying it, there's a couple different things you can do. You can either just go straight out of the container with a rag, get it soft and wet, stain the wood, wipe it off with a clean rag, and just let it dry. You just want to be careful to not get heavy in spots because it will get dark. Or what you could do is thin it out. So just get you a little cup, pour some in there, and then thin it out with either water, or you could even use rubbing alcohol. Cool thing about rubbing alcohol is it dries a little bit quicker, so if you need to speed things up, it's a good way to go. That's what I'll use here in the video, but like I said, water works just as well. The other thing is that the ratio of mixing it is just something you're going to have to experiment with just to see what you like. So hopefully you have some scrap wood, you can kind of try it out and just use some old like measuring spoons or whatever, and just find a ratio you like. I mean, it might be 1:1, it could be 30:1, I mean, who knows? So just see what you like. So what I'm going to do on my little sample board here is half of it I'll just go straight up out of the container, and then the other half I'll thin it down, probably somewhere around 1:1 or 2:1, I'll let you know, but you'll see the difference. Okay, so like I said, for the first half, I'll just go straight up. This stuff is very messy. It's going to get all over your hands, all over your work surface, so just be careful with it. But I will put it on here. Now this is red, but you can see it's kind of like a mulberry color, which is kind of cool. But I'm assuming that, when you're dyeing fabric or whatever, it's going to be a lot more red. So I think you can also actually mix the stuff too. So you might be able to mix it with blue and get kind of a purpley color, or whatever. But there we go, that's just straight up. The cherry red kind of has like a wine look to it. Okay, so for this other half I'm going to thin it out. Now I did just say that you should probably use measuring spoons and all that, but I'm just going to kind of wing it here because I didn't grab any for this video. Alright, so there we go, got about, what is that, a teaspoon, half teaspoon or so. And then I am going to use my rubbing alcohol. Okay, that's probably a 1:1, but I think I'm going to go a little more than that. Alright, we'll call that probably a 2 or 3:1, somewhere around there. And then just mixed up really well. It will take a while to mix up. You can kind of see it doesn't want to at first. It takes a little bit to do this. Alright, so it's mixed pretty well, but you see how there's still little chunks in there? That's the part that you probably really want to filter out. So this is when you could run it through the coffee filter or paint filter or whatever. But again, kind of like I didn't use measuring spoons to get a true ratio, I'm not going to thin this either. And those should sink to the bottom. I'll just try to skim off the top here to get my rag soaked. But if those little gunky pieces get on here, that's what will cause dark spots as well. So you just got to be a little careful with that. So anyway, let me get some soaked on my rag here. And then put it on. Yeah, see how much thinner that is? It's pretty cool. So you can just mess with the ratios and just find a color you like. But that looks pretty cool. And like I said, that was probably close to a 3:1 or so, and it really thinned out. So maybe my example earlier of a 30:1 is probably way too much. But anyway, that's pretty cool. So there we got like a mulberry red and then a super light pink. So what I'll do is real quick just show you a couple of color samples of ones I have, and then I have a cool little special treat at the end. Okay, so I have these little pieces of wood. This one's a little bit darker pine, has kind of a pink look to it. So whenever I put on that cherry red, got that real nice mulberry look to it. I also tried out teal. They got a really nice teal color. And see how this one is darker on one end? That is because that wood right there is a lot softer, and I didn't sand that half. I was testing out smooth wood versus, kind of rough wood, and those rougher, softer sections soaked it up. And that's what I was trying to say earlier about it getting darker, which could be a cool effect. It just depends on what you want. But that is the teal. Okay, so this one right here is actually, I thought I grabbed black, but I actually grabbed a synthetic graphite. So I guess this is kind of a dark gray, but to me it's basically so dark it's almost black, but that's a really cool look too. Okay, and then if you want a more traditional look, this is what the dark brown looks like. There's kind of a hint of purple to it, but it's still a really nice rich kind of chocolate brown. This is a really good example of what the harder sections will do, the knots, and like if you look at a regular piece of wood, the more like orangey yellow, they just don't soak it up as much, but the really soft, light colored ones do, so it has a really cool sort of graphic look to it that way. So this board had really even grain and even color, and I used the lemon yellow on here, and it just has a really cool, it turns almost like a butter yellow on the wood, but that was a pretty cool color, I thought. All right, and then the last color I tried, although it looks almost black, this is actually the navy blue, which is a really cool color, almost like a midnight blue black color, which is pretty awesome, kind of menacing looking. But they do have a lighter blue, and they have a regular green, and there's orange and things like that. But these are just the colors I happen to grab just to try out. So now what I'll do is I have just a simple little project that I will stain up with this dye just to kind of show you what it looks like in real world application. All right, and there we go. We have a fabric dye stained wooden cheeseburger. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. I really appreciate that. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. That really helps get it out in front of other people that might like to check it out too. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to do that to keep up with more videos. And if you want to see some other projects I have some here on the screen and down in the description below as well.